if you got a problem in your business, it's a leadership problem. It is like that sweater where you pull one thread, it impacts other things. I've seen things.
Welcome back, investor. We've got another episode of Passive Income Adventures where we talk about all things investing, entrepreneurship, lifestyle design, how to create, and then how to live on passive income. So, for the last 7 years, my husband and I have been pursuing this kind of dream that some people don't really even believe is a real thing. And when we first started, we were a little nervous. We were a little worried that it wasn't actually a lifestyle. It was just a lot of hype, a lot of over glamorization, people trying to sell me something on the internet. And when we finally went down the path and started aggressively investing, I don't mean with risk, but just putting a lot of our income towards investing with a plan, we were able to leave our jobs, leave our businesses just a couple of years. And so we want to give back now, teach other people how to do that. And we do that by bringing guests onto the show who can help you run your business better or talk about their own experiences, because the stories that we share with one another gets real people into your lives, and then we're networking with one another. And once you see how somebody else has done it, then you know that it's possible for you to do it as well, because the details are really where things start to fall apart. And so that's where our guest today, Joshua Monge, comes in, because Joshua, you are a fractional operations and marketing, like a business person who comes in and teaches people how to run the business. And I always say on the show, if you have a great job or a great career, don't quit your job. That is not the goal of what we're trying to teach here. Your job is what supports your investing. It takes 5, 10, maybe 12 years to go from, I wonder if I don't have to work till I'm 60 to actually
Yeah.
getting there. And so we're just trying to help our entrepreneurs, listeners, run their businesses better. And then hopefully our professional listeners can use some of the tips you share to manage their careers better and maybe get more promotions or these kinds of things just by being a better operator. So introduce
I love
yourself.
that.
Tell us about yourself. Why should we be listening to you? Why are you the expert on ops and fractionalization and efficiency?
I've seen things.
I've never
All
that
right.
one's gonna make it into the little title sequence. I promise you that now. My editor
Uh,
loves to take things out of context and make a funny little there you
oh,
go.
then I've got a few lined up
Go
for
for
you
it.
here.
Go for it.
Uh, yeah. So currently right now I work as a fractional COO. Basically, I help jump in the seat of the car that is running. My clientele is usually businesses that are founder managed, founder owned, founder ran, 500,000 to 5 million in revenue, service based businesses. I just find that they usually start with a passion, like they were working for
Mhm.
somebody else and they want to do their own thing. And so they go off on their own and they have this great idea and they're going to do it better. And so they get like first handful of people, they're succeeding. And then after a couple of years, they continue to succeed and they add complexity to their business and they don't hire somebody to manage that complexity. And so by default, all that complexity falls on their plate. And so then essentially they're failing from success. They get to a place where, their revenue's coming in, they've got payroll, they're doing all of that. Proof of concept is totally there, but they're working like 80 hours a week. They can't take vacations. Everybody's coming to them for stuff. Like their phone constantly is ringing. And it's not a great business, and it's to a place where what do you do? And I've found that if people could take a step out of that business and look at what they do and tackle it in a new way, I think they can restructure and organize things to make that business run really well.
Yeah.
So as a fractional COO, I basically kind of say if the bus is on fire and the wheels are coming off, you definitely want to get someone to help put the fires out, get the wheels on, get the bus back on the road.
Yeah. When the bus is on fire is not the time to be saying, we're running low on gas. Let's put
Yeah.
gas in the fire."
Oh, that's the part I use the analogy at the house. It's, oh, we've got a kitchen fire. It's okay. Do you want to put that out? Or and they're like, no,
I need to clean the bathroom.
I'm too busy right now. I can't do it. And so my whole lead follow-up process is just checking in with people every 30 days. And
Mm,
it's, hey, how's that stove fire? They're like, oh, no, it's the whole kitchen. So now we
yeah.
don't have to worry about remodeling. We'll just let it burn itself out. It's okay. I'll follow up within 30 more days. And then they're like, half my house is on fire. I need help. Okay, cool. Let me jump in and see what we can do.
How did you get to this point? Because obviously let's go back to when you're like a young guy, you're thinking about your own career and trying to figure out like where you want to go in life. And then you're led to this point where now you're helping other people figure out their businesses on fire.
I feel old answering this question.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like looking at maybe if you had 8 different board games and you play them up end to end, and then you're like, so I was doing this, but then it switched to this, and then go through these different things. I think for myself, when I look back to what motivates me and drives me and where I started, My mom and dad were divorced when I was a kid, so I lived between two households. My mom was a teacher's aide during that time that I was growing up, so I saw her just work herself to death, just
Mhm.
work as hard as she could to make things work, negotiating with the mechanic to get her car fixed. Sometimes we had groceries, sometimes we did just all of that ebbs and flows. And then on my dad's side of things, he actually immigrated from Mexico, came here as a kid and worked his way up, had a really strong work ethic, was a UPS driver for most of his life. And again, just work. And I got to high school time, I wanted to go live with my dad, see what that was like. And at that time, he not only was he a UPS driver, he was also a property manager for a woman that owned quite a bit of real estate in Redondo Beach. And seeing him just get up and work, get up early in the morning, come home late, like just grind it out and then still do more work. I think that's where I got my work ethic. And then watching them do that, I just was thinking, gosh, that's a rough life to watch work for somebody else and grind out. And I always was the inquisitive person and I always took things apart. I couldn't put them back together very well, but I could take them apart. That was easy. But I was always inquisitive. And so trying to find faster ways to do things, easier ways to do things. And fast forward, I ran my own business when I didn't have any education or experience. I just found myself in a place to negotiate between people and develop processes as I was going and did had a terrible business for a few years. So if your partner is telling you like, go get a real job, quit this business, do something else, I've been there and we did it for many years, especially with small children and had to negotiate a lot. I've run a terrible business for 5 years. So I have that experience. And then I went back to school, got a degree in economics. And then I worked for a chamber of commerce for 3 years as the director of economic development. And so looking at the region and how things run, I helped hundreds of businesses stay and grow in the area. And I've watched very successful businesses fail. I've watched people stress out. I've seen almost every version of type of business. And through all of that, I've identified some key principles and key concepts and key ideas that if you focus on these elements, it will increase the likelihood of your success. I mean, and when I left the chamber in 2020, I was supposed to walk into a COO position for a $10 million in revenue manufacturing facility. And the money guys that were bringing me in were like, hey, listen, it's February 2020. There's this COVID thing going on. We're going to put you on hold. We're going to put you on hold. And yeah, they put me on hold for 2 years. They never got back to me. So I guess maybe longer than that. But I had to figure out, okay, great. I left the chamber. I got to figure out what to do. And so
Yeah.
I started my own business and I had a buddy of mine catch up with me and be like, hey, by the way, you should really help businesses again. And so a couple of years after that, I built a fractional practice and had success with it. I really love helping business owners figure out their stuff. They've got a lot of passion and ideas, and I've done that a few times now. And as a primary way of earning, I've done that. And then I did that as an economic development person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I don't know if I've ever shared this story on the podcast before. It's not a deep, juicy secret or anything, but when we first relocated, we were in Texas and we moved to Utah unexpectedly. My husband got laid off and I had a photography business, real estate photography, and I did weddings on the weekends and I call it hobby money, right? But I
yeah,
had finished my business degree and had spent my entire career either doing my own little cottage businesses or 1099 contracting for other people's businesses, either as a photographer or as a consultant, like an operations consultant, right? And so when we get up to Utah and I'm like, I don't want to restart my photography business. It's a grind to maybe like gross 100K a year, unless I want to start like a big business and hire subcontracting photographers. And I don't know if I really want to do that. But when my husband was looking for a job before we moved to Utah, we were attending a lot of networking events. And he was looking for a career position like W2 IT kind of profession. And it was just a bunch of small business owners, probably similar to who you had at the chamber, massage therapists, insurance salespeople, and they're going to all these business networking events. And they didn't want to talk to him about becoming their $125,000 a year IT guy. They wanted me about because they were drowning and crazy. Oh, you help people with their social media, you help people with their bookkeeping, you help people. I don't do it for you, but I come in and I do some training and help people get their business on the rails because they're on fire. And I thought maybe I should start a business like that. So it sounds kind of like the business that you started, but you're talking about your experience consulting with all of these chamber members, like way deeper experience than I had. And it makes me feel like, wow, maybe I was over my skis thinking I
oh, no, listen, there's all walks of life and everything else. And just small point of clarification, like with the chamber, like I actually was to the point where I was dealing with non-chamber members too, because people
Mm,
were like, oh, cool, you're going to help maybe this is one of the failures on my part was I never was trying to vie for a I would never help people because I was like, oh, maybe I'll do a chamber
Oh,
membership.
yeah.
But no, I just did it because when you look at the economy and like in the whole as an ecosystem, understanding where people are and what they do and how the role they play and the interconnectivity of it, it is like that sweater where you pull one thread, it impacts other things. And some people are in small business, it doesn't matter. No, because they're hiring local people, they're spending the money locally, they have the rent, they have all of these things that they're doing that it has ripple effects.
Yeah.
But the experience that I had though, it's just unique to me. And I think your experience that you've had is unique to you. And
It's a good thing I didn't do it, honestly. Going to all of those business networking events is I was just trying to get a feel for the market, like, when you change geographies like that, like you're talking about local economies, like I noticed a huge difference when I first got to Utah in even just like the real estate photography space. Like
yeah,
there wasn't as much professional photography, a lot of DIYing, a lot of the local photographers barely had enough business. They couldn't subcontract. Okay, maybe the business support or operations and marketing is also not the same here. So I started going to a bunch of
yeah,
networking events to see like what's the
nope,
appetite. I know Utah's a big DIY kind of place, and I was a little worried there wouldn't be enough business without a lot of marketing and all that. And so I was at these business networking events and I met real estate investors. They have a lot of real estate investors here in Salt Lake. It's like way more than in Austin. And it's what led me down a different path. Say, oh, maybe I don't have to start my own business. Maybe I can just buy some houses and have at least semi-passive income and work
yeah,
part-time. So that to me was a door opener. This could be crazy. And what the stuff that you're talking about is exactly the reason I didn't start a business because I didn't want to deal with having photographers subbing for me. I didn't want to deal with all of the stuff that goes on. And I still had my youngest was still in kindergarten. And I'm like, I don't want to work full time because of
yeah,
operations. So in one business, I'm like, I might have to do too much marketing. The other business, I'm like, I have to do too much ops. So it led me down a very different path, but then it's like people like you who now that I'm running a business anyway, like
yeah. You
on
can't get
passive
away from it. If you're an entrepreneur, like it's gonna sneak up
income.
on you.
It's just a different kind of business than I originally intended. But yeah, it can suck you down a vortex.
It's funny that you mentioned I'm just gonna I wanna, like, tickle this just a little bit since you said it, but that fear of success, right? If this works, right, or to make this work, it has to look like this.
Yeah.
That's the path that I try to get people to like, okay, if you have good operations, good people skills, and you really care about what you're doing, then you've got the machete to cut your way through that path. Just see what it looks like. Like,
Yep.
I'm not saying that you have to do it. That's the only way to do it. And you, like I said, you took this path, but you're still finding that at some point you have to deal with operations. And then there is a little bit of a scaling thing where even if you want it to be completely passive, you're going to have to hire somebody to trust to have your vision or be able to like execute your vision and financials and all this. You're in the same place you could have been, but you definitely went a different path, which is totally fine. But I think that fear of success, that's the first thing I try to get people to get rid of is, hey, listen, let's just cross that bridge when we come to it. Because
Mhm.
guess what? You don't have to cross that bridge. You can decide that you get to this point, you're like, okay, I need to hire people or I need to keep going. Oh, you know what? I don't want to do that. Okay, great. Let's go back to the last place you were happy. And let's just set up your village there.
Yeah, it's like a lifestyle business versus a business where you have a product that you feel really passionate about that you want to go dominate the market because everybody needs this or what it's very different than building a business that helps people but also allows you to live a lifestyle that you're looking for. Like how do you balance those two things with your clients? Cuz
Yeah.
nobody wants to work 80 hours a week even when it's for their own thing. What do they say entrepreneurs are the only people who leave their 40-hour a week job to work 80-hour weeks. Something like that.
My dad said that to me once because he's been working his whole life. And when I was doing this in the third or fourth time with the fractional CEO work, it's actually the third or fourth time I've run a business and got it right this time. My dad was like, I don't understand why somebody would give up a job, $100,000 a year job to go make $50,000 for themselves and be able to do whatever they want. And I was like, no, it's the other way around, Dad. And he's like, what? I was like, I make 100 grand. I can do what I want. And, you know, it's great. I had to set up success. I had to build systems. I had to build all these things to make this happen. It didn't happen overnight. I've had the experience of failing in the past, and then I've had the intentionality of what I've done now. And we had a conversation before this. Technically, I own two businesses, and they're slowly growing. They're not on the same growth path as other people. If I could start comparing myself to other people, I'm definitely not where I should be compared to them.
No,
But
nobody is.
fine. What I've done is, and this is what I'll do with other people, is help them redefine what the definition of success is. Because if success is you're looking like some guru that's on YouTube that is crushing business and is telling you have to work 80 hours a week and not go to family events and blah, blah, blah. Hey, that's their version of success. And that's what they've done to succeed. But for you, I think for most people that get into entrepreneurship, even the people that do it as a side hobby, they just want it to be comfortable. They want to take care of their family. They want to make sure that they have some security in place and that their livelihood is not strictly dependent on that W-2 job or that one source of income.
Yeah.
And even with the financial stuff, that's the reason why people invest in the financial markets
Yes.
to help build a cushion and build some security and some sort of hedge against whatever's going to happen in your life.
Mhm.
And yeah, do the same thing with your business. Get it to redefine what success looks like and
Yeah.
try not to compare yourself against the people that are younger than you, smarter than you, faster than you, have the right family members, have the right connections. Like you just got to figure out what your version of success is and then work your way towards that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I know several people, my business partner being one of them, but some of our investors, people in our network who've left really high paying either executive or maybe director level roles at large companies like $1 billion plus, like you'd know the names of them. And the executives walked away because they couldn't strike like this work life balance that they were looking for. And talking to them about how they were able to do that, it was a process that they went through over several years of trying to figure out, okay, can I afford to walk away from this? What do I want to do after it? Do I just want to take some time off, like a sabbatical? Can I afford a year off? Do I want to get a new job? Is that gap going to hurt me? Do I want to start my own business? Can I just be retired? And if I'm retired, then how do I handle all the time? What do I do with all the time? This process that you're talking about and the questions people have to ask themselves, again, it's just through my network and hearing interesting stories like that and just asking them like, how did you get through that? I mean, I'll give some examples. Like one director was just putting his bonuses away
Yeah.
and paying off his house, like just paying off his house in massive chunks of bonus money. And then when he was ready to leave, they put a HELOC on the house and they went and bought another house, like a rental house with it. And
Yeah.
that rental house supported the payment, things like that. Another one put a bunch of money away, sold some rental houses. And my partner, he moved to Utah. He retired in Utah. He used to live in Hawaii and
Oh,
he retired. And we're like, wait,
he made a trade-off there.
what are you doing here,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
but he came and he basically started using his own capital to run a hard money lending business, which is how I got involved with him. I'm like, "Hey, can you loan out some of my money?" And he said, "No." I'm like, "Let me help you set that up." And so here Rise Capital was born. But these kinds of decisions and processes of people who have done this before me were really useful in having me figure out like, is it success I'm afraid of? Is it the amount of work that I'm afraid of? What do I really want out of life? What lifestyle do I want? And not bowing after I've made that decision and after I really have tapped into what I want, not getting into that rat race of I have 1,000 units and fly always private and I do, oh, maybe I should do that. No, here's what I want. Here's what I'm excited. This is what I'm going after. So I appreciate your discussion on those questions that people have to ask when they're like, okay, what do I want my business to look like? Is a huge part of what I want my lifestyle to look like. But you did
Yeah.
say one thing that really I'm wondering, you said you've been passing, you're like, I got it right on the third time. Like you
Oh,
run business before, you finally got it. And then you mentioned it
yeah.
also like the key steps that you have to go through to make sure you have a successful business. So tell us those key steps that you mentioned earlier, and then how the businesses that you were running that didn't survive, that didn't make it, were violating those, and how
Yeah.
your business that's successful now is actually following those key steps.
Oh, nice. Okay. First and foremost,
I love when I see the gears turning.
I entered I okay, so my very first foray into entrepreneurship is when I was in grade school. I know this is gonna sound silly, but like there's a pattern here.
Yeah.
I enjoyed eating candy like the rest of the kids. And we're poor. We'd always find a little bit of money here and there to do stuff. And I remember going to a place called Smart and Final. I don't know if it's still around, but it's like one of those like restaurant depot things. Like they sell a lot of things in bulk. And I remember seeing one of my favorite candies, and there was a box of 100 of them, like right there in front of me. And it was only like, if you did the math or whatever, they came out to 5 cents a piece or something, even 2 cents, I think, for some of them. And I did the math real quick and I was like, holy crap. Like, I'm like, I go to the liquor store and pay like quarter. I'm really aging myself now because a quarter was like what you could pay for
We
stuff.
bought candy bars for a quarter when I was
Yeah, I
little.
know. Do you remember that?
King-size candy bars were a quarter.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, so then I looked and I was like, damn. So I pulled together some cash and I had my mom take me one time and she's like, you're not eating all that. I was like, no, I'm going to sell it to the kids at school.
Not labeled for individual resale.
Welcome to entrepreneurship.
Fortune favors the bold.
So Yeah, and apparently at the school, you're not supposed to do it either, because eventually what happened was I was making enough money and then I was selling different types of candy and basically candy wrappers were everywhere. And
Mhm.
then I got into the lollipops with the gum inside and the gum
Oh,
started showing up. And then that's when they were like, that's it. And then there were 3 or 4 other kids.
regulations.
And so
Yep.
anyway, and then I got to the place where I was like sneaking those little poppers into like pencils. And anyway, it was just but so that was kind of the first foray into entrepreneurship, like what that looks like. And then, so that was successful until I ran into some regulatory issues, I guess we'll
Yes.
call it that way. But then fast forward to when I became an adult and the very first business that I really tried to do was like, okay, honey, like cards on the table. I want to go for this, give it a shot. I didn't have 6 months of savings. I didn't have any, I just had the willpower to make
Mhm.
it work. And there was a graphic designer that I knew. He was trying to build a website for a business and they were going back and forth and they couldn't get things right. This is the early day of web design, by the way.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what's the problem? And he's like, I need the owner to pick a blue. I didn't know this was a problematic question, but I was like, how many blues are there?
Oh, huh.
And he pulls out a Pantone book and he's like, "This is how many blues there are." And I was like, "Oh,
Yep.
okay." So the owner can't pick a blue. I'm like, "You're giving him too many choices. Which 3 colors can we pick 3 blues that you think would be good for this whole thing that we're trying to do based on your professional experience, everything else?" And he's like, "This one." So I just took the Pantones, I took the little color sample, and I emailed the business owner. I was like, "Hey, can you just pick one of these blues so we can keep with moving the design forward?" The guy's like, "I like number 2." I was like, "There you go. I just
Yep.
solved this big problem." And so what I saw was that there was an opportunity for creatives, that
Mhm.
they were missing some of the, like, business components, and so I could work as an intermediary between the 2 and to get this figured out. And so I helped him with that, and then I started putting out for projects, and my whole pitch was, "Listen, you're gonna pay 50 you're gonna pay somebody 50 for 50 hours of work to do this. What if I get your project done in 40 hours, save you a couple bucks, and make this easier for you?" They're like, "Oh, I like that idea." And then I went to the graphic designer. I was like, "Listen, it takes 50 hours because you guys are just it's all over the place. What if we like created some processes or simplified some things?" And I got it down to 30 hours.
Mhm.
And they're like, "Yes, please. I would love to do that. Make $50 an hour or a little bit less than that salary." And then, so then all I did was I just kept the spread. I just kept the difference on it. And I was like, "This is my margin. So we're going to bill them in 40 hours, but we're going to get it done in 30. And I'm going to take that and you're going to get paid 30 hours." They're like, "Yeah, I love it." So I started stacking the deck with people, but then where I failed was that people I was working with, they were very green. And so they weren't very disciplined in delivering on time, on budget,
Mhm.
and within scope. And yeah, I learned a hard lesson on that. And I ran that business for about 4 or 5 years. And it was really hard because I would take on work that I shouldn't take on because we needed the money.
Yes.
I tried to never overpromise, but because I thought the team told me, "Hey, here's our capacity," and so that's what I sold. I sold the
Mhm.
capacity, which now I should have remembered like Star Trek days. Scotty, it's like, "How long is the engine's gonna take to fix?" And he's, "Oh, I need 10 hours." And then 3 hours later, he's like, "I got the engines fixed." "Scotty,
Yes.
you're a genius." I should have done that more.
Yes.
So anyway, so when I say I ran a terrible business, it wasn't like there was this, I got it to 5 million and then we made bad investments and the whole thing blew up. It was, no, I ran this really painful, terrible, imagine like the worst car you ever had in your life when you had to have that car and you were constantly dumping money in it. But it was helping you, but it was hurting you and all of that. That's what it was like for a couple of years. And so through that process, I've learned to create safeguards for a lot of these things. And so now when I left the chamber and I had to start my own business, I started from zero, had all this experience and knowledge and insight. But what I did was it was during COVID. I saw everybody going online and I had a lot of marketing experience. And so I built an SEO audit business.
Mhm.
And that's
Mhm.
all I did. So I did search engine optimization, but I would audit for SEO and then I would tell you exactly what you need to do and how to fix it. And I would hand that over to. And then eventually we did that enough times that people were like, "Hey, can you help me build this out or execute this?" I was like, "Sure, yeah." But I never wanted to sell with the intention of, I'm going to sell you the audit so that I can sell you the work. I just sold them the audit and I was okay with it. So my whole business model was capture the people, do the audits, get them on the road, and then get the next person. And so I had this really clean on ramp, off ramp for my
Mhm.
offering. I knew who the ICPs were. I had my USPs and had a very clear process to do this. And so I could just do this over and over again. I got that to 6 figures in 18 months by doing that. That then gave me the bandwidth and the cash flow to then, when my friend caught up with me, was like, "Hey, you should be helping businesses again." I was like, cool, build a fractional COO business. Again, who are my ICPs? What are my USPs? And how do I deliver? And what am I delivering? Made sure I had that really tight and then got that up and running. So that took about 18, no, 16 months to get that to this place where then both of them were running neck to neck. And so now my SEO work has moved more to full service digital marketing. And because of the operations piece, now we're doing automation and AI and all of that. But I still keep these two businesses running because now when I'm doing operations work, doing that is more technical and more generalist. Where are the bottlenecks? How do I fix things? Make those improvements. And then the digital marketing side, basically we build digital marketing departments for people. So even then I'm trying to build with an exit in play to say, hey, we're going to hang out for a year. I'm going to work with you, build this thing. And then in a year you take it over. So even with these businesses that I run, I still have very clear on ramps and off ramps and I'm very mindful of it. So then when I first started my business, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just taking whatever work I could do. And I said yes to things and figured it out. Now I'm like, no, this is exactly what I do. And I know where I stop and I end. And then I refer out. And then knowing my ICPs or ideal client profiles, I've met people and they're like, oh man, you're great. You're awesome. But I want you this and I have to do this. And whoa, whoa. That's not how I roll, man. Let me find you the person that rolls like that. You
Yeah.
guys can go do that. But for me, like, I've got processes, I've got ways to help you. And if you, this is the journey and this is the road and this is how you want to travel, let's travel together. If not, then hey, there's somebody out there that can totally do what you want. So
Yes. Yeah, it's okay. So let me give you an example. We like to hike. This is a big part of our lifestyle design is how much time can we spend out in nature hiking? And so when we were in the Grand Canyon, we were needing a lot of help. And there was a guide who was helping us online. And we are trying to decide, do we want to hire this guide to come and help us? And it dawned on me when we got back to Utah after that trip, we wanted to go hike some big mountain up here. I didn't call the Grand Canyon guide.
yeah,
You come guide me through this mountain up here. I was looking for somebody who had experience in this particular mountain, in this particular area, who knew this particular trail. So when you think about it that way, your ideal customer profile, right, needs
yeah,
to be narrow enough that they're actually climbing the mountain and the trail that you want to guide them through because you would not going to be like, I can guide on this mountain. I can totally go do the Grand Canyon. Maybe
yeah,
after a little while if you want to move, but it's not sure. Let me take on a Grand Canyon tour. I've never done this before. I don't
yeah.
discover I like the Grand Canyon.
It's even, I don't know, I like cooking too. I have core recipes that I've got nailed. When I'm tired and I don't want to learn a new thing and spend 3 hours making a meal, what can I put together in 20 minutes? I have a meal that I've had practiced. I know the ingredients. I know exactly what I need to do. And so it's almost muscle memory when I
Mhm.
do that. And it gets rid of decision fatigue, gets rid of, makes my life easier. So I think with the selection of the right person at the right place at the right time, makes your life a hell of a lot easier. Cause then you're just like, cool, I know how to do this. I know how to run this.
Mm.
And even with your trail people too, like the Grand Canyon guy could probably give you general advice about things on some meta level. But yeah, if he doesn't know the trail, ideally they would be like, I don't know the trail. You should talk to someone
Good
that
guide
does
would
this.
say
Yeah.
that. A
Yeah.
good guide who's not desperate for money, and that was a key point that you said. It's like you're taking things on because you needed the money. But at the beginning, you mentioned having multiple streams of income, and the way that you can build a business without taking on desperation clients because you need the money is to build up multiple streams of income, hopefully some passive income, so that you then say, okay, the mortgage is going to be paid, the lights are on. We don't have to wonder if we can get our car fixed or have groceries. We know that those basics are taken care of. Now let's go build a business foundationally the right way because I won't take on desperation clients. That's huge. So, how do you get your clients from the point where they're barely making ends meet or they just not ready for somebody like you if they haven't figured out how to scale past those basic needs that they have?
Yeah. I think that's the challenge. So for myself, when you draw the little circles, it's does a person have this problem? Okay. Yes. Can I solve the problem for them? Yes. And actually make an impact. And then can they afford me? That is a hard one. And so I think a lot of the business gurus that are very successful and everything else, when they draw the little circles, they're like, I'm going to deal with these people that are intersecting. That's who I'm focused on. That's who's going to take care of my life. I'm going to make sure that they're priority one. But they always have this heart for the people that aren't quite ready. And
Mhm.
so I would say like now, gosh, now in this day and age, there's so many resources online with people just giving away free everything's for, I don't know, pick anything. You should be able to self-diagnose and get yourself on the right path.
Yeah.
But I think just like you're talking about your trails and everything else, oh, I love using anecdotes. Hire the right person at the right time. So, you're not going to hire the person that's going to do Mount Kilimanjaro, whatever. You're not going to hire that guy to come help you do your local thing that's barely bigger than a hill. So you can do a little bit of self-learning, you can do a little self-education, but then talk to people and then make that investment. That's the hard part for people that are struggling right now, that the
Mhm.
business is doing okay, but they're overworked and they don't have the money and everything's really tight. If you can reprioritize your schedule and reprioritize your spend, I think you're going to find enough in there to be able to get you out of this.
Yeah.
And I think the key to that is if you hire a one shot guru that's going to magically bullet you out of the situation, I've yet to see anyone that can do that in one shot. It doesn't seem
Yeah.
realistic, but I think hiring maybe a coach, right? So then maybe you're having trouble with client acquisition. Then talk to someone that's a sales specialist and say, hey, I'm having this particular problem. Don't talk to a web developer about redesigning your website if you have a sales problem, right? Unless you know it's the website that's the problem, hire someone that can look at that kind of pipeline for you and then do a diagnostic and say, you know what it is? And this happens all the time with service based businesses. Are you guys answering the phone every time it rings?
Yeah, yes, it's shocking how we were helping a service-based business last year. We had already kind of retired. We were traveling full time. We were sitting someplace for a couple of months. And we do this pretty much everywhere we go. We usually end up networking with other business people, other entrepreneurs. And several of them have asked us, like, this is why I thought maybe I could start this business like a couple of years back. But they'll
Yeah.
ask us now, maybe you could come over and help me look at what we're doing. So I'm sitting in an office one day and they were all out in the field, and I wasn't even working. They actually hired my husband to consult on that project, so I was just sitting there meeting him for lunch, and the phone was just ringing and ringing, and I hear the answering machine, and it's the same guy, keep calling back. "We've been calling, I left this, like, the 5th message, the thing is just like that they had deliverables that they hadn't delivered, and then there'd be somebody else who's calling up like, "Hey, we're really trying to get a hold of you, like, we really need to get this job started. We wanna know if you're available," and I'm just like, "What are you struggling? I don't even have
Yeah.
a phone."
So there's just things there's just blind spots that you have and getting someone in there. But I think the very first thing they have to do, and this is part of my ICP process when I qualify people, is are you coachable or are you malleable in what you're
Mhm.
doing? And the people that have succeeded and I've been doing this for 5 years and I've got a payroll and I've trusted 80 hours and blah, blah, blah. I know what it takes. Cool. You know what it takes to pay yourself into that corner?
Yeah, one
Giving
guy
your
in here won't get you there.
yeah, you know how to get yourself in this situation. That's great. Now you're in it. Now you need to figure out how to get out of it.
Yeah.
You're going to need help. Find someone that can give you the feedback that you can listen to and then fix those small little things first. Free up your time, free up your processes, get stuff, off of you as a founder. Get to your place where you're passionate for what you're doing or where you can actually think about what you're doing and make those very intentional next steps instead of reacting. And so bringing somebody in to look at it and say, answer your phone. There you go. Create a document that you put all of your notes in one place.
Yep.
Hire an answering service. If you pick up one job and that one job will more than pay for 6 months worth of answering
Mhm.
service, hire the stupid answering service. Take the risk and invest in yourself and take that chance. I That's the other part to this because I have, side note, I found a lot of people that come from corporate when they get enter into entrepreneurship, they want the like, where's the perfect formula to do entrepreneurship? Like,
Yeah.
I need
Oh,
to have, I need to have 6 months of savings and I have to have my LLC filed and I have to have my tax paperwork done. And I have to, by the time you get done, you're looking at it and you're like, okay, so you have about $10,000 worth of have to have expenses to even get started.
it's
Are you
not like over systematizing
that?
because we talk systems is like the new oil in entrepreneurship. To me, when somebody says systems, it's a
Yeah.
fancy checklist to do.
Okay, that is a very I'm insulted and, no, you're right. On the simplest thing, it is a checklist, but so that's your reasons not to do what you're gonna do, right? Like, I don't
Oh,
have all of these things, and so I can't do it. I've seen people throw a board in water and make it into a boat. You just build it as you go. So, where's the balance in it? Listen, there's risk, there's trade-offs, there's all of that. I totally accept it. I realize it and I understand it. But you're also talking to a guy at 23, got married, and then we had kids. And so we started early and we're prepared and financially ready, but we worked it
yeah,
out.
man,
And our
they're
kids are great and life is wonderful. I think over preparedness is probably one of the challenges that the planning paralysis where you're always thinking about all the reasons you can't do something or whatever. I think that the other piece of this with entrepreneurship is you got to try it until somebody gives you money for something that you're doing or
yeah,
selling. You don't know it's going to work. And so make sure get someone to buy it. Then, okay, this could work. And then get that to happen a couple more times. Now you got a business. Now go build all the other stuff you do. So
yes.
take the tax hit, take the liability chance, all of that stuff. What's the chance that somebody's going to go wrong by following some operational thing that I do? What's the potential damage in that? It's nominal in the grand scheme of things, right? But if you're doing life and death stuff or a roof or construction, yes, then definitely make sure you're being more mindful of the risk. But for the most part, there might be a hiccup, might be some delays, it's not the end of the world for everybody. So make sure that you test your products, test your services, and that there is a product market fit, that somebody actually wants it. Once you've got that, then take that cash and then start building the infrastructure that you need. So I would love to say hire an operations person before you even get started, but the reality is you just need to get out there and run around, and kind of like when we were kids, this is the extra thing. We got out, our parents were like, don't come home before the
Yes.
sunset. We did all kinds of crazy stuff.
I'm surprised any of us survived. Like, I'm talking like frozen pond, falling in, saving your friend, just
Yeah.
a ranch kind of stupidity. Yeah.
Yeah. Or your friends are like, hey, we don't have anything to throw at each other. Let's throw rocks at each other and see what happens.
Yeah. We did all that because we
Yeah.
didn't have the internet.
And so we have a couple of us have scars, but now we've got cool stories to tell. So
Yeah.
I think with entrepreneurship, getting out there, trying that would be good. But yeah. So I don't know. How do they
Well,
get out of it? Ask for help is probably the first thing.
but don't let all the things good businesses, like you said, especially corporate from a startup position. And our current business right now, my partner is, like I said, corporate, spent 30 years climbing the corporate ladder at a particular business. And my husband is from the startup world where he's like employee number 4, employer number 9. He's doing all the jobs he does mostly IT support. So not operations, but like everything else. I design
Yeah.
the web page and I run the Photoshop and I do the desktop support and the network and the data center and all this stuff. At the beginning, you're just doing everything. And it's a much different mindset where in a corporate environment, everything is siloed. And in a startup environment, everybody better be buckled up because it doesn't matter what it is. The bathroom needs cleaned. You better be the one in there cleaning it, right? Because you got a
Wow.
customer coming and you can't afford a janitor. It's just crazy how different they are. And then as you grow, they start to coalesce a little bit more. But at the beginning, it's just get it done and stop letting these barriers of how things should look in a larger company start you from just starting a smaller one.
Yeah. If you're comparing yourself against these large corporations, like you're
Yeah.
not them. You don't have the staff. I met a guy. I really like him. He's a nice guy. I'm not going to give you his name, but he left corporate and then he started a digital agency. He had a good partner. It just the cards were in alignment for him. And so he got it up to, I think, 20 million in revenue. And then they had an exit. And so he got
Mhm.
the cash out. And then he found himself there with a couple of zeros in his bank account and trying to figure out what to do next. And he's like, oh, I want to start another business. But he didn't have the key partner. He didn't have the cards just to not lay out for
Yeah.
him. And so I met him and he was like, I'm so frustrated. And I was like, why? I have the money. I can't find the people. And I have to do all of, pardon my French, but I have to also shit myself. And I was like, welcome to entrepreneurship, man.
Yeah.
Like what you did before, that was like, hey, everything worked in your favor. You were just in the right place, right time. That was an element of luck. And to you, like you recognize that you took advantage of it. That's awesome. This version 3 of what you're doing in life, this is the entrepreneurship. This is slogging through it, figuring it out. You have to be a generalist and you have to do all of these things. And then that first time you get that little extra bump in your margin, that you've got a little extra cash, great. Now what's the next investment that you can make in your team or in your systems or your processes? And just keep leveling, and slowly you're going to get this incremental gain.
Yeah, just getting more organized in general, understand where you're going, the fundamental concepts that you mentioned at the beginning. Can you list those off for me? Because you said ICP, USP a couple of times. We've talked about the checklists and the systems. We've talked about not letting analysis paralysis or the barriers of entry that we artificially make higher than they actually are, or people
Yeah.
who just, like you said, built the parachute on the way down. It,
I
summarize
prefer
for us.
the boat on the
Yeah,
water because it's less impending doom. Like,
yeah. You made me swim. You got a backup plan, but in
see?
the plane.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess the difference between the plane would be like you said, starting a business where you're building roofs or foundations versus the boat would be like, I can help you with your SEO.
I love this because your husband in the startup world, that's what they do, right? They get an investor and they're like, great, we got $500,000. We're
Yeah.
burning this baby down. Like we're spending money and we're going down as fast as we can. Where is the point that we hit the ground? Yeah,
Yes.
that's a different kind of startup than throwing a plank on the water and kind of building your boat.
Bootstrapped versus VC model. That could be another whole podcast
Yeah.
on its own. But one of the things I really like though is as a COO, for example, in the startup world, there's so much data out there showing that when a CEO of a startup is replaced by a professional CEO, the business doesn't do as well because nobody's going to love your ugly baby as much as you love your ugly baby. And you're just going to put more work. And even though they don't have CEO experience, they don't even like being CEOs. is because they're so passionate about the company, the product, all of that. They tend to do better when they keep their original CEO in there.
Yeah.
And they do better if they just hire an ops person. Honestly, like when or a fractional CEO to come in and consult and help. Like like I want to just be back being a software developer and hire a CEO who takes care of this for me. Like that can never really happen. But the COO is a completely different situation because it's almost like a third party coming in and being like, y'all got lots of holes in the bottom of your boat here. It's different in the ops side of things than it is in the executive side of things. Do you find that to be the case?
Yeah. And I would say executive operations is definitely different than like executive CEO or even executive operations is different than like an operations manager or
Mhm.
coordinator. The challenge is like when I was in the beginning, you have this business that's been growing and there's this complexity that first employee, you're committing to that one employee, you have to come up with communications, follow through, documentation. There's all of these things that you have to do to make this successful. And then each person you add adds another, does all those relationships and connections. And so all of that complexity, somebody needs to manage it. And the nice thing with businesses, there's a foundational component to all of operations, whether it's a Kodak, are they still in business? Apple or I mean,
Yeah, we're showing our
easy
age
one.
with Kodak. Let's not.
Yeah, no, I know, right? Seriously.
Xerox, right?
Yeah, Xerox. Yeah. So let's say a service-based business, the difference between someone that cuts hair and a lawyer, they're doing the same thing, like in the most meta concept of it.
Yeah.
I don't mean to, if you're a lawyer, I apologize. You're very important and don't sue me. But the work that you do, it's like somebody comes to you, they have a need, you provide a service to help remedy their need, you exchange money, and then send them on their way. And you hopefully would follow up with them and they would come back and refer other people, right? Same concept for both of
Yeah.
those. So then when as your business grows, you have that complexity, you need someone to manage that. So getting an operations person to come in, you can promote within. I'll tell you right now, that's my bread and butter is it when people are like, I have an operations person, I can't get them to the executive level of thinking, strategy, and execution because they're holding on to all the previous jobs that they've had and they can't pause their job and actually build the systems and processes that we need to be able to scale.
Okay.
That's where then hiring someone outside the business with an executive kind of operational viewpoint, I
Mhm.
come in and I'm like, okay, here's where the problems are. And again, if you're listening and you're thinking, oh, maybe we should hire this guy, unless you're willing for somebody to call you on your own BS, like you
Yeah.
probably don't want to hire me because first thing I do is if you got a problem in your business, it's a leadership problem. Number one, I don't care what this person's doing. I don't care how these people treat you. You've set the tone and the culture for that business.
Mhm.
You've allowed that to happen. And so you need to fix some of these things. We can do slow changes over time that will compound and you eventually get the results you want. That's where you're going to get the different flavor of operations people. I'm not a hatchet person. I'm not the person that you're going to wake up tomorrow and magically I'm doing everything. You're doing nothing. We're not doing
Yeah.
that. I'm also the person that if there are problems, I'm going to help you deal with the problems, or we're going to get to a place where you decide, no, I'm going to continue to live with this problem. And then I can't help you. And then I'm going to have to exit because,
Mhm.
hey, that's cool. You don't want to touch that employee because they're the best, but you don't like them. You don't talk to them and you're frustrated with them all the time and they cause your churn rate to be high. Then you continue with your hobby business. I'm going to go find somebody else that wants to
Let's
actually
run
like
a real business.
I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be rude about it, but you have to get to this place where if I'm in the business of running a business or owning a business, treat it like a business. Let's
Mhm.
build and structure it that way. And you said it earlier, the team that got you here is not the team that's going to get you there. Those
Yeah.
processes, ideas, concepts, everything that got you to this place, great. But if you're not in a position to scale and you don't have the mindset, the angle to actually angle and grow the right way, you're just going to get this slow thing and you're going to get to a place. I say it all the time when businesses are like trying to get to over 1 million. It's a Sisyphean effort where they just keep pushing and they try new initiatives and new ideas, but they can't get it because they're not actually not going back far enough to fix some of the core processes to get them a better angle so that
Mhm.
as they grow, they're actually going higher, right? Because you've actually fixed it. You fixed the foundational elements that you need to get in place to give you a better growth trajectory.
Yeah.
So
And I love that. I love fixing one problem that downstream fixes many problems. I think we all do. It's just sometimes figuring out which one you should be fixing that's going to have those downstream effects is hard to identify. And that's why sometimes it's either somebody with more experience or somebody who's not seeing the trees instead of the forest. Like that can be very helpful. I'm okay. So let me come back around to what we were talking about before, like recapping and summarizing your message with a couple of those core principles. Like obviously we need to know our ICP, USP. If you have even have a viable business, you go out and find market. product market fit. Summarize some of the other concepts so that we can make like just the like give me the Cliff Notes version. This
The
was a
Cliff
10
Notes version
slide.
is, or also known as, you don't need to hire Joshua, just do these 5 things and this will help you.
No. Okay, I don't wanna get off the rails with that one, but that's an interesting concept because if you give enough of it away for free, they think they can do it themselves, but
Oh, they totally can, and they should, because again, all they're gonna do is paint themselves in a corner and need some help again.
there and
Well,
they're not gonna
we'll
know
create
who to call.
we'll create a new set of problems for you. So definitely when you fix a bottleneck, it's gonna create other bottlenecks. So
Okay.
if you have a capacity problem, right, and so you hire another person to bring on board, now you've got another problem of training this person and getting this right. And if sales is overselling and you fix sales, then now fulfillment has to take care of it. When you're dealing with these things, fixing a bottleneck is gonna create other bottlenecks,
Yeah,
but you're fixing better bottlenecks.
your problems
Yes.
is a problem that I would love to have at least once in my life.
Yeah. So the second one is get rid of the fear of success. Like you actually don't know what that path is going to take you to. You don't actually know what that village is. There could be dragons there, there could be riches. You don't know. Try to put that fear away and just pack that up and do come up with a plan that actually is going to be success and get to that place where you actually get to make a decision. The third one is actually document what you like. I meet people all the time. Hey, do you have processes? Oh yeah, we have processes out the wazoo. Great. Show them to me. They're all in my head.
No.
If if you get in a car accident or you win the lottery or whatever, like how is anybody going to know what to do? So you got to write it down and put it in one central place. Because again, they're like, oh, where's the client intake? Like, where does that go? Oh, it goes to Bob. Okay, what happens when Bob's not here? Then all of a sudden you can't get it, and then you can't respond and you can't follow through. So put it in one place that everyone can find it. All your
Mhm.
documents, SOPs, everything in one place. One guy that I work with, I really have a lot of respect for. He goes, if you can't find an SOP within 30 seconds, like people are not going to do it.
Yeah,
So
you can barely get them to do it if you can find it within 30 seconds. I make my own SOPs and don't follow them sometimes because I don't know why do people have such a hard time.
because we like to think that we're independent people that can do whatever, or oh, we got it, and then you skip a couple steps, and then you're like, "Ugh, I should have followed you."
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I'm a musician. And when I was a kid, I would have to memorize pieces for a recital, right?
Yeah,
And you have to be able to play it with no music. And you got some extra pats on the head if you could memorize your music, but I could only memorize 2, 3 songs. And then a month after the recital, I had to get the music out again. And so that moment where you're really in the zone and you've got it memorized, right?
yeah,
And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, I forgot that already. And even traveling, we don't bring a piano with us when we travel. And so every once in a while I'll be at a church or something and they're like, oh, yeah, hey, can you jump in and play this for us?" I'm like, "I don't actually know. I'm pretty rusty." Like, it's just one of those things, like, unless you're doing the SOP pretty much every single day, you really do need to refer to your sheet music or you're just gonna be making a lot of stuff up
yeah.
as you go.
And at some point, it becomes a guide for you, so that you're not necessarily reading the whole thing, but it's in front of you, and then you're just like, "Oh, I forgot the little break here." There's this
Now they don't have box spring.
yeah, exactly. See? Okay, so we got 2 more, and we'll get through it. So the fourth one is accountability. Make sure that I think where a lot of people fail is who's responsible for that process?
"Oh, you
Responsible.
had the baby."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we only did that once. There was our firstborn, and we left
Okay.
him in the car for
You
about
got it
30
more than
seconds.
once.
Yeah, hopefully not on top of the car, because that would be a really
My
funny
mom did
story.
that on top of a pile of oranges at the grocery store.
Oh, okay.
She got home and she was unloading the groceries and she was like, "You should have drive back," and he was still sitting on top of the pile of oranges.
Oh,
She got a
nice.
little seat carrier and brought it back. No one was the wiser.
That's
But that kind of stuff, it's like she was in charge of the baby, but she forgot she had the baby. But what's worse is when you like this has happened to us before. Like my husband showed up to pick me up one time and we were swapping cars. So I had all the kids. So he was bringing me the kids and then I was going to take the kids and go so he could do his thing. So I was alone. He brings me the kids and he does his thing alone and I take the kids home. Right.
yeah.
So we're passing up all the kids, moving them into my car. And I'm like, where's the baby? And he's like, I thought you had her. Like literally, I thought you had the baby. She was taking a nap when he left. So he brought all the kids except her for
Oh,
whatever reason, thinking I would have brought the baby with me. You're tired, you're
yeah,
stupid,
yeah,
make mistakes, and then you're like, "I thought you had the baby." That's the worst situation that can ever happen. I get home, she was still just sleeping away. None of the kids ever noticed, like, "Where's the baby?" We're just not saying anything. So, yeah, that kind of stuff happens because we're tired and we're stupid and we didn't write it down. We probably should have written down this process. Like, when you come pick me up and we swap kids, like, this is exactly what it needs to look like. And a couple of mistakes like that resulted in now we have a procedure every time we leave or go anywhere, we text message exactly who we have in the car with us. Exactly. It especially gets bad when you're with extended family and aunts and uncles are taking cousins and cousins are driving in your car together. Just think about that situation and trying to run a business like that.
Yeah.
So every time we leave, it's I am in the car with these people, so and so is in the car with those people, and the other one responds, okay, I'm in the car with these people. Everybody accounted for. All right, let's drive. Because if you don't write it down and you don't come up with a system, like bad things can happen. And there's your anecdote for don't do
I
that.
love it. Thank you. See, this is great. This is why we're getting along. Yeah.
All right.
And I think the accountability piece to it too is also like somebody needs to be in charge because if everybody's in charge, then nobody's in
Nobody's in
charge.
charge.
And I would like to for the founders that are like, I'm accountable for everything. Okay, but you don't have to do it all. You just have to be
Mhm.
accountable for it. So
You have to be accountable to after the person who's accountable. You put some it's like me hiring a babysitter. If that babysitter is accountable, I'm ultimately accountable for choosing the right babysitter and making sure the babysitter showed up, didn't leave early, like those kinds of things.
yeah,
But that doesn't mean I'm watching my kids during that time. I'm still accountable for them even though I'm out.
love it. Yeah. And then I think so those are fixing bottlenecks. This is going to create other bottlenecks, fear of success, like actually go down that road and then have something to actually be fearful of
Mhm.
or actually face it. Write down everything, put it in one central place. The fourth one is accountability, make people accountable for very specific tasks and build systems around that. And I think the fifth one, and I find this in businesses a lot, is when you're founder owned, is if you don't have an admin, then you are the admin.
Oh,
So you could be billing at 300, 500 lawyers. Like
yeah.
they seem to have a system where like they have paralegals and they've got that figured out. But for other service-based businesses, they don't realize if your billable hours is $300 an hour, then why are you entering customer information into your CRM? Or why are you processing those invoices or all of that like low level admin work?
Mhm.
You pay someone to do it. There's
Right.
a book by Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time. Read that and basically, he advocates that 25% of your salary could be used for an admin. So
Mhm.
get some of those tasks. And I did this for one client. She was working like 60, 80 hours a week, interior designer. And she was like, can't afford an admin. I was like, you're a million in revenue, but when we calculated hours, payouts, draw, everything else, she was making $7 an hour. And so I was like, what we need to do is get the stuff off your plate. That's all the low value stuff. And then you can start billing more hours. And so we did a little bit of math and we documented our processes. I do process visualization. I built a lane for an EA and I put all of the things that an EA would do. And then by the time we did about 6 processes, I had enough things the EA to do that we were able to write a job description.
Mm.
So she reached out to a VA service. We got some in the Philippines that was going to basically do all the order follow-ups and emails and just the admin work that just grinds creativity down into the dust. Got the EA up and running. She was working 40 hours a week and basically got the owner 20 hours of her life back, which she basically had to work 4 more billable hours to cover the cost for that. And instead she worked like 15 hours to basically expand her business and go to the next phase of growth.
So, do people have to get used to the idea of fronting that money? So, let me give you an example where somebody is billing their hours, they're doing a lot of the admin themselves, and they don't have enough time to grow the business because they're doing all this admin stuff. So, when they offload the admin, not only do they have to train that person and make sure so they are not immediately able to go from, oh, I hired an admin. Like you said, it's not like suddenly you're doing everything and tomorrow I'm doing everything. There's a transition period and then they can go grow their business. So at a certain point, they have to just say, I just have to bite the bullet and absorb this expense without the increased revenue to support it, knowing that this should free me up to go get the increased revenue. Or are there ways that maybe all of the above? There are ways that you can cut costs, waste in the business so that we could redirect that to hire some help.
Yeah, the cost cutting thing always feels the easiest. Oh, let's go do that. But you have to go find it and then you have to figure out what the repercussions are. Like, why is this costing here? Like, how do we fix it? And then what's the repercussion? And then you wind up that rabbit hole of trying to cut that down.
Mhm.
So I think where we found success is either, which feels like antithetical, work a few extra hours to bring in the extra cash,
Mhm.
then use that extra cash to buy yourself that person that you need. But for most businesses, really, if you're, even when you're failing from success, you're stressed out, you're barely making everything, you're really good at juggling. So juggle out the money that you need to cover this position.
Mhm.
And if an example of the interior designer, she had to work 4 extra hours to do it. So all she did was say yes to a project that she said she was holding off because she didn't want to take it on.
Oh, capacity.
Yeah. So she was like, okay, I know this is going to take a little longer. I'm going to say yes to this project. That's going to give me the cash that I need to hire this person.
Mhm.
And then her return was like within 2 weeks because we had a really strong checklist of what the person did. And she already had some SOPs in place for entering information into Basecamp, like all the projects
Yeah.
that I'm nuts. You hire someone that has the capacity and skill to do it. So you're not training them like, I need to teach you how a database system works. No, that's too low level. Get them to where, okay, I need you to enter information into a system. I need you to check emails. I need you to put notes, these things that they're already ready to do. Great.
Mhm.
That person then can hit the ground running because now you're just giving them a checklist of all the stuff they have to do.
Okay. Yeah. At a certain point, a business that can't support basic admin has to reexamine their viability as a business.
That's what I'm saying. If you're in a place where your business can't succeed because the owner has to do everything and nobody else can do it,
And the business can't afford it, then
then you've got a really crappy job
yeah.
because maybe it's a lifestyle business and like I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody there. Then it's a lifestyle business or it's a hobby business. But if you're
Mhm.
talking about something that can run without you and actually earn money and grow and can hedge against shifts and everything else, you
Mhm.
need something that's got people and processes that can ebb and flow and pivot as things happen, where the founder is not the one that has to make all the decisions and do everything.
Does this apply or how does the application change for, let's say, a part-time hobby business? So somebody is running a side hustle. Maybe they have a full-time job and they're trying to do the side hustle. Or maybe it's someone like me where we have enough passive income that we only need side hustles here and there to just have more money to invest. We're trying to grow. And so we don't want a business that's going to take over our entire lives that way. We don't work full time. We don't need to go take over the world. We're just looking to have a side hustle to bring in some extra cash to meet some goals that we're trying to meet. How do those things differ when the business is never supposed to scale to be a full-time thing?
Yeah. So I have to answer in the reverse. For
Mhm.
business to scale, it has to have solid processes in place. And then it has to people accountable for those processes. And then you hire the talent at the right stage, right level, and everything else. And then when you're in a growth phase, you can't restrict growth. Like as an operations person, it actually hurts me to say this. If you're trying to grow, don't go to your operations person and say, hey, I want to grow by 50%. Like, how do we operationally get there? You controlling and limiting everything. It's no, we have to let the CEO off the chain. We have to let the sales team off the chain and we have to let them go do stuff. And we're basically my remedy on that is let sales try to break fulfillment. And then let's try to not break it. Don't sell things that we can't actually do.
Capacity.
Like you test our capacity, right? We don't know what
Okay.
the capacity is till we test it. We could do all the math in the world, but our team could bang things out really well. Or we just mess with the delivery times and extend out the delivery times on things. All of a sudden we've got more capacity. So we have 1,000 units of things that need to get done. We don't have to get it done in 10 days. We can get it done in 20 days. Great.
Mhm.
Now we've got more capacity. When I say break fulfillment, like, so that's growth and it's messy. And then it's going to cause you're going to have to redefine things and that's growth. If you want something that's steady and like really dialed in, then it's all process. Like I have to say, we do a lot of Airbnb travel and these guys have it dialed in. Like
Mhm.
we barely talk to them. We barely get to know them. Like they answer questions. They've got some sort of responding unit, whatever. We get to the house. There's no key. We just put in a little code. Wi-Fi passwords there. They have little stickers all over the house of, hey, you got to use don't put this in the toilet, all that stuff. They've gone through this whole process. They figured out how to get the whole thing running. That basically they have a cleaner show up that they don't even have to book. It just all runs itself.
Mhm.
That's passive. And then getting an operations person to help you set that up. Yeah, that's what we'd love to do. I would love to do that for everybody where it's here's the most efficient system that we've got that leverages everything to the absolute best capacity, best use, best everything and the owner doesn't even have to be there. Like, perfect.
Yeah.
But that's not growth. That is like trying to build a very stable thing. And you can use that for growth, but it'll be very slow because we're trying to stop everything. We're trying to document things. We're trying to get things in a place where,
That kind of is a parallel to my investing portfolio because when I very first started, I was running an active business. I'm buying the rental houses, I'm buying the apartment buildings, I'm raising all the capital and running the apartment building as managing partner. And we were growing fast, right? But then the operations caught up to me and I had to ask myself a question like, do I want to start basically an asset or property management company? There's a certain point when you get enough apartment units, you really do need to bring it in house. It's a loss on the books, but it's still cheaper than hiring a property management company, right? So you have to bring it in house. And so I had to ask myself, like, our next level of development that's going to take marketing, raising money, finding deals, broker relationships, and really scaling this and starting an internal property management company. And I just had to be like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to grow that. And I want cash flow and I want to retire. And so we started selling stuff and then reinvesting in that in more stable, boring private loans. They always make 12% no matter what we do. If they sell the house for $1 zillion, they still make 12%. If they lose money on the house, I still make 12%. It comes out of their pocket. So for me, I had to sacrifice some of that willingness to grow because that wasn't the lifestyle I was trying to build. Maybe if I was in my 30s, it would be different. We're like here 50 and we don't really want
Well,
to do that.
and on that note, it's the same with it. So anyone that's in it does investment on a hobby plus level, right?
Mhm.
You understand these things. And so it's the same thing with entrepreneurship. Everything that you do time wise, time is your dollars. And so you're investing in that. How you choose to invest that and your dollars, you want to
Mhm.
invest that into time to figure out like, am I on a growth cycle? And I want to, so do you do high risk, high return?
Mhm.
And
Or do you stick with the boring? It's the same way when I realize I'm not investing money to make more money. I'm investing time working or learning so that I can have more time. And when I shifted my focus to the fact that this was not about money, this was about time, that really helped clarify a lot of the decisions that we were making as a family with in regards to our careers, our jobs, and all of that. So that kind of clarity and recognizing like I do just want a side hustle
yeah,
and I don't want to scale this. But what that also opened the door to here, maybe you can speak to this, is instead of now I gotta buy the building and I gotta do the property management, the asset management, and I gotta raise the money and I gotta figure it like running this whole business, I would say, what if I just pick one of those things and really own it? And so I saw the biggest bottleneck in the industry was raising capital. It was very difficult. There were too many deals and not enough money, especially during the bubble, right?
yeah,
Like people's money was placed, right? Because everybody's excited. They want to get in. So you'd think it'd be easy to raise money, but there's so much competition that it was difficult to raise money. And everybody was like, do you raise money? Do you raise money? We'll bring you on our team. Did you raise money? Like, how much money can you bring in? If I really can focus and niche hard on this one skill, I can really make that into a part time job and then not do the other half that makes it a full time job. So niching down, and like you said, I don't help these people. This is who I help. That's been very helpful to keeping it a manageable scale for me that complements my lifestyle.
yeah. And I think that's wrapping this up because
Yeah.
I got to think. Yeah, so I think with what you said about the time part, yeah, I think that's the piece that maybe that's the message that I could pass on is as a business owner, reevaluate how you spend your time and what your time is doing, and then redefine what success looks like using time as an element of what success looks like. I think that's what's going to help people figure this out and move their business forward and decide whether or not, like in your case, do I take this path and do I go make this make a corporation big fancy thing, or do I set it up in such a way that I don't have to stress and worry about it and it's going to continue to grow and provide the revenue that it needs.
Yeah, definitely. And that, like I said, has been a big game changer for me and our business. And just, it's just helped us focus and know exactly who we're helping. Joshua, who should reach out after you to so who can you most help? Describe to me that person and then tell them how they can get a hold of you.
This is like the ICP formula.
Yes.
Okay, so you're in the service-based industry and you're at 500,000 to 5 million in revenue, or you very much want to get there and
Mhm.
you're willing to make an investment, I can help you. Especially if you have product market fit and you're already doing things okay. If you're working over 60 hours a week, I can definitely help you. And you want to get to less hours, perfect. Let's talk. So that's how I can help. And then 9 times out of 10, I usually get it because somebody has a friend that's working their butt off and stressed and can't seem to get their head above water. Great. Send them my way and then we'll have
Yeah.
a conversation.
Yeah. Somebody says you need help. So where can they get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me, you can find me on LinkedIn. I have my profile. I'm really easy to find. I spend time, energy on there. And then also my website, thinkadaptbuild.com. On there, you can find a quick thing. You can send me an email or you can book a free 30-minute conversation. And then I'll send you a link if you want to put in the show notes. I can give you a free hour if you want to just talk about operations. No obligation, no craziness. I just want to try to help people. So
Yes, I probably will take advantage of that promotion. So yeah, we'll have show notes. We can
that's
get
the
there.
real reason why I'm here is like, I got to test this guy out. See, yeah,
Honestly, that's the selfishness of a podcast. Like the people I get to talk to, the questions I'm asking the questions, they say he who asks the questions controls the conversation or something like that.
yeah.
And I'm controlling it the way that my business needs it. Sometimes I feel like conversations like this so expose the vulnerable underbelly of my business that maybe my listener would be like, I don't want to invest with her.
There's a
you
level of
know,
catharsis to this whole thing. You're working it out, and all the listeners that are in the same boat, I'm sure they really appreciate that. So,
exactly. You gotta keep it real, you gotta keep it vulnerable, and the more we try and hide things, and that transparency will leak through to other areas of our business as well. And so I hope that by being vulnerable about this kind of stuff that we struggle with, that will show the listeners like, "Oh, she's definitely gonna tell me the truth about the investments because she didn't have to talk about leaving her kid."
I just won't. I'll trust you with my money, but I won't trust you with my kids.
Yeah,
So,
okay, that's probably yeah, that's all right. Thank you so much for talking to us today, Joshua, and be sure to reach out after the show if you wanna get on my calendar, free 30 minutes, talk about whatever you want investing. Our goal here is to educate our investors, not just our current investors, but our potential investors, or even if you're a long-term, maybe potential investor, like, we're just here to educate investors on how to make better choices so you can live a passive income lifestyle too. Because, it's real. We've done it. Let's talk about it. So partnerwithrise.com and you can get a hold of me there. If you want my specific calendar, partnerwithrise.com/Emma will get you right to my calendar, or be sure to talk to my partners as well, because even though I host this podcast, like, they do most of our ops. So you want to make sure that the ops team handling your money knows what they're doing. So get to know the entire team and we would love to have that conversation with you. Thank you. Until next time.